What's up, guys? Welcome to Son of a Ditka podcast. I'm Cole Van Way, and that's Taylor.
Yo, what's up, guys?
Um, we're pretty much going to get into some of the slander we've heard on Darnell Mooney, and a little bit on Justin Fields, and of course talk about mini camp and rookie camp that's started up this past week. And yeah, what do you want to start out with, Taylor?
I think we kind of go into where we left off with the other podcast. We didn't finish up on day 3 of the draft. I know we went into a little bit about day 2 and then that second round and third round that we had, and then what we were kind of expecting going into the day 3. So I think we start off with the day 3 draft.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not going to get into the players and how they specifically are going to fit into the team. Day three, I think, is all about quantity over quality, and you just wanted as many swings as you could get. And the Bears, I mean, were able to draft 4 offensive linemen, which is almost a full unit. 4/5 of the unit to bring in, and you might not really even expect those guys to contribute this year or next year, but to offer some of the young guys like Tevin Jenkins and Larry Borum and those guys to be able to compete and have some young guys come in hungry to take their jobs. And you never know. You never know. Larry Borum popped on the scene last year as a fifth rounder, I believe, and he played fairly well. So you never know with any of these guys. I think their best pick on day three was Treston Ebner, the running back from Baylor. I think he offers a lot of versatility out of the backfield. He said in one of his recent interviews that his favorite thing to do is catch out of the backfield and just be a receiver like that. So I think using him in those ways, I think there's still no question that David Montgomery and Khalil Herbert are the 1-2, but adding a guy in there to give them a rest or give them a breather, and as well you can line him up in the slot every now and then just to take advantage of his athleticism. I think he could be used like a Tariq Cohen, how Tariq Cohen was used in as a receiver and in the backfield, just to get the defense off their rhythm a little bit. And hey, we got a punter. Mega punt Pat O'Donnell decided to be a trader and signed with the Packers this offseason. So being able to get a rookie in there, I mean, I think it's always fun to draft special teams guys because it's never fun to have to try to battle and negotiate after the draft for undrafted free agents. So they just went ahead and drafted him and bring him in, and hopefully he's the next punter to be here for the next 5 to 10 years.
Right, and I kind of look at day 3 overall as far as guys that we bring in and stuff. These guys are not necessarily going to look at day 1 starting at the regular season playing games, but definitely guys who have potential to eventually make a starting roster, if not this year, next year, years to come. Even practice squad guys. I don't think that people truly understand how much of an impact practice squad guys can value on a team. I mean, these guys are there to basically be the dummies to kind of make the other guys better, but at the same time, these guys bring in their best effort every day to practice, hopefully to gain a spot on the starting roster. And who's to say that with this coaching staff that Ryan Poles just brought in, what if we're looking at guys here that 5th, 6th, 7th round talent, and this coaching staff can kind of unlock that skill level for some of these guys, coming in, and that kind of transitions to what's ahead of us as far as like the Justin Fields and these guys coming in. What type of caliber of offense can we run with guys like this? And like you said, we're bringing in that running back out of Illinois who we can kind of like have as a participant that we saw with Tariq Cohen, and kind of have that guy that can catch balls out of the backfield and kind of be more of a playmaker through that in a sense. But I think the way that I'm kind of looking at this right now is that we're not going to go off of what we saw with the Nagy scheme as far as the poor execution, could never convert on a third down. I think Eberflus and Ryan Poles here are setting up for a season that has zero expectation and I think that they're trying to make the most out of what we got. And even with these rookies coming in, I think there's a lot of potential that we could have with bringing guys in, transitioning, or I wouldn't say transitioning, but more so bringing guys in, bringing guys out, and seeing who plays the better role in what area. And I think that with the offensive line scenario too, because in years past, Chicago's really never had that elite O line, and especially last year we saw that, especially in that Cleveland Browns game where Myles Garrett put up a career high of sacks in just a game. I think he finished with like 4.5. It just, and honestly, I can't really blame that on the O line itself. I think it was just a really bad scheme by Nagy itself. I think there was like, out of like the 17 pass attempts, I think there was only like 5 guys blocking on the front line. You got, Clowney coming out the edge, and then you got Myles Garrett and Cole Kmet's guarding
Yeah, they
Myles
didn't,
Garrett one on one.
yeah, they never had a tight end in there or a running back to chip at all. It was
Yeah.
just
So then
O
you would have
line block.
David Montgomery sitting in the backfield, and all of a sudden he's running this little fade out, and it's just like, okay, I mean, thank you, but we're not getting anywhere. And if you look at the beginning of that game, we actually came out pretty good. Like, it looked like a game that the Bears could actually handle, and then over time, after the 3 and outs, and then our defense started getting tired. That's when Kareem Hunt kind of took off on us. So I just think Eberflus, at least not necessarily like expecting, but I would like to think that Eberflus coming in here, especially with the guys that he has and the caliber players, that we can contribute to a zero expectation season. I think we can almost see the Chicago Bears kind of come out and be in that dark horse. I even saw yesterday there was a report that Chicago's sitting at like dead last in like power rankings right now, and so be that. I think Chicago's always going to be that mediocre team, no matter how bad the roster looks. And
Yeah.
so yeah, what do you kind of think about? So there was an article, or there was a tweet that dropped about D Mooney not being that even the number 2 overall receiver in the Chicago
Yeah.
Bears offense.
Yeah, I will actually pull up the receipts here so I can read it word for word. Dan Orlovsky tweeted on would have been on Friday, yesterday, about, in his words, this is a quote: Justin Fields has 2 pass catchers drafted in the 3rd round or earlier, a 3rd round rookie wide receiver, and a 2nd round tight end. He doesn't have a number 1 or a number 2 wide receiver. His starting wide receiver unit, consists of undrafted, 5th round pick, undrafted. If he plays well, he will be an MVP combo. After Bears fans were obviously, wringing his neck about Darnell Mooney, he then tweeted, "Respectfully, Chicago Bears fans, some number 2 wide receivers in the NFL," and he listed Mike Williams, Chris Godwin, Adam Thielen, T. Higgins, Michael Gallup, Devontae Smith, Tyler Lockett. Mooney is a good player. He isn't a number 2 as of yet. I agree with his list of the number 2 wide receivers, but I would argue that Darnell Mooney is just as capable as putting up those yards. And last year when Allen Robinson was out, in the 5 game weeks, he had 25 catches, 391 yards, which was over 15 yards per catch, and 78 yards per game. He was on pace for 1,200 yards, which would have been 7th in the league, if he wouldn't have gotten there. So, I mean, there's going to be slander. I mean, whenever the Bears haven't had a 1st round pick at wide receiver since Kevin White, and obviously that we all know how that turned out. But I mean, on paper, if you look at it, yeah, I can't argue with the Bears being ranked 29th and 30th. I think I seen on 2 power rankings. Just because if you look at it, I mean, Justin Fields is, aside from David Montgomery, is like the only shiny object they have on the field. I think Velus Jones Jr. is going to add some dynamic playmaking skills to the offense, but that's still an unknown. Nobody really knows how well that's going to turn out. Darnell Mooney, everyone hopes that he can even take another leap, but I'm if Darnell Mooney just copy and paste the season he had in 2021 every single year, for the rest of his career, I'm happy with that, because I think he is definitely a wide receiver 2 lock. And I think there are some games, if your top wide receiver is injured, that he can take a step and kind of be a borderline wide receiver 1. But I think he's going to make a career at wide receiver 2, and So I don't totally understand the Darnell Mooney slander because with Mooney it's no longer projection like it is with Velus Jones, like it's going to be with some of these undrafted guys and even Pringle, bringing Pringle in. I mean, and Equinemius St. Brown, like those are still like projections that you hope that they can add on if they are getting more snaps and getting more targets. But Darnell Mooney has shown like in his 2 years in the league, he's shown um, production, and he's shown that he can not only produce but produce consistently. And as technically a number one receiver with Allen Robinson out with injury last year, and when he was on the field, he didn't really do much anyway. So I get it to an extent, but I still think there's a little bit of disrespect towards Darnell Mooney.
Oh, 100%. And, to add to the thought of that, you know, let's look at guys who've kind of had, the big step. And that's the thing that we have to kind of look at with D Mooney too, is that it's not like his rookie season, he came out and put up 1,000 yards. He did that in his sophomore season. So if we look at the trend here, D Mooney's only getting better in a very inconsistent offense. I would say even that, 2019, 2020 season that, D Mooney was actually in more of a consistent offense than what we saw in the 2021 season, and he still posted a better receiving stat line than he did the year before. So, and to add to that, Cooper Kupp came out and he was a second string, or he was the number two guy, behind Robert Woods for a portion of his career. Devontae Adams was a number two overall option for Aaron Rodgers when Randall Cobb, and you could even put Jordan Nelson. Was Jordan Nelson there?
Yep. Yep.
Yes. So you got to kind of put it in too. These guys have to grow. Not all these guys come out and they're superstars right out the gate. And I think that's what the NFL is starting to look at is like, okay, we got Justin Jefferson. We got, God damn it, what's the guy for Bengals?
Chase. Yep.
Yeah.
So Chase.
Yeah. So we got these guys coming out first overall, or not first overall, but first round picks coming out, and these guys are blowing away the scene as rookies. Darnell Mooney was a 5th round pick. We have to pay attention to that. This guy is supposed to develop in the NFL. He's doing his job. He's doing what he is supposed to do as a 5th round pick. The amount of value that D Mooney is as a 5th round pick coming into the league, disrespectfully telling or to go out and say, oh my gosh, Darnell Mooney is not a number 2 option wide receiver in the Chicago Bears offense. It's disrespectful because of the inconsistencies that we've seen on this offense or with the offense with Chicago Bears. Because not only is D Mooney a number 2 option, he has a very good potential to be that number 1 overall option with the Chicago Bears.
Yeah. I mean, I think overall, when you're building a football team, you want to take as much pressure off of your playmakers as possible, right? I mean, if you have a number 1 go-to guy, but you have chumps the rest of the depth chart at wide receiver, I mean, that guy's gonna have a lot of pressure, and if they lock him down for a game, it's over with. So I think they took some pressure off Darnell Mooney by adding Pringle and Equinemius St. Brown, because you're going to get guys that can add a different skill set. But then they took a lot of pressure off drafting Velus Jones just because you're able to use him in so many different ways. But there's still work to be done there. I mean, I think right now, I tweeted this about a week ago, right after the draft, and there are 3 guys that I think the Bears still have an opportunity to sign because they're still free agents that would kind of change the entire outlook of the season. Odell Beckham, he's coming off that knee injury, but however he comes back, I think everyone would be in agreement that he'd probably be the best or borderline the best wide receiver on the roster, even if he doesn't come out 100%. Jarvis Landry, I think he's looking for a contender and a lot of money, but I think he's a guy that comes in and he brings stability and he brings an automatic just safety blanket for Justin Fields. And Julio Jones, I mean, he's been a number 1 for how long? Of course, he's on the back end of his career now, but you bring a guy that's what 6'6", 6'7", however tall he is. I don't even think he's that tall, but bring a guy in who's that big and who has that much experience just to give Justin Fields a bigger target, I guess, to even a bigger range to miss. Right, he doesn't have to be as accurate throwing to Julio Jones because he's got a wingspan of a bus. Like taking some pressure off of guys, not only Justin Fields, but Darnell Mooney and now Velus Jones. And it could be, there's still so much to be done through training camp and rookie camp and mini camp, and guys are going to be cut. I mean, there's even a second tier of guys, Fuller and he's still on the Texans. We got T.Y. Hilton, Cole Beasley, and Albert Wilson. I mean, those are guys that I think would just be really good pieces to add. I mean, those guys are borderline two, but definitely like threes and fours. But right now, I mean, outside of Darnell Mooney and Velus Jones, I mean, there's not much to be excited about on the wide receiver group. So I understand the slander. I understand the projection of the Bears season of what it's going to be like in 2022. But I still think there is so much time to add these guys. I mean, you got to think last year, Alec Ogletree, um, Jason Peters, those two guys were added what a week before the season started last year, and they were key contributors all year. They weren't superstars, but I mean, they were guys that held it down and played a lot of games. And those are guys a year ago, right now, that no one would ever think or connect them to the Bears. So you just have to drill into your head that there's so much time left, and there's going to be roster cuts. There's going to be cap casualties that teams are going to see some of these rookies come in or some of their free agents come in, and they might overperform or perform a little bit above the scale they thought, and so they're like, okay, well, we can save $6 million if we cut this vet and have our rookie get some snaps. And there's things like that always happen. There's surprises, and it's a long way to go.
100%. And to kind of like top things off here, I kind of want to go into Justin Fields slander, because it's still happening. I hate to see it. Conversations with anybody, everyone asks me, how bad are the Bears going to suck this year? It's like, thanks, good question. Let me get right on that. And I think that we have to pay attention to that. This is a whole different scheme right now. This is going to be entirely different. There's actually like a little bit of me right now that I can actually see there's hope. And I believe that Justin Fields can come out. Now, I know I've talked about this before. And throw for 4,000 yards. And I can see Darnell Mooney having a 1,500-yard season. And I could see the Chicago Bears making a playoff berth. With the top 5 defense, top 3 in takeaways, and potentially, I wouldn't say necessarily have a Super Bowl run, but to build that respect. The respect of, this is no longer the team that quarterbacks go to die. This is no longer the team that the best quarterback of all time for the Chicago Bears was Jay Cutler. This is a team with a new era. I think when we look back at teams, we look at the Cincinnati Bengals, who just had one of the most from underdog to fame, to bring it back. The Chicago Bears could do the same thing, but in its own journey. We're not rocking with the number 1 overall pick. We're not rocking with a first round wide receiver. But what we do have right now is zero expectation and a lot of caliber players that do not have a lot of respect. And
Yeah,
I think that,
I mean,
yeah.
I'll say I am not convinced at all or as optimistic as Taylor is on this. And I think like that's okay because I like the direction where the team's going. Going into last year, I mean, you pretty much knew they weren't going to make any sort of Super Bowl run. I mean, they barely snuck into the playoffs 2 years ago with that new 7th seed and just got beat by the Saints. And I mean, that season before wasn't great, and so you just knew that nothing great or otherworldly was going to come out of 2021. But going into this year, I mean, I would be okay with a 4 to 6 win season, only because that just shows like right now we have a lot of young guys on the roster and a lot of guys that are going to get the most snaps of their career. Last year, there are times when we're putting in, 8-year vets in, week 15, 16 games, and there's no sort of like excitement or developmental aspect that you can look forward to because these guys have been in the league and passed around 3, 4 different teams already. You're gonna get guys that are hungry to finally get their chance and show what they can do. And I think that'll be entertaining all year long to think, we could find a diamond in the rough like Byron Pringle, who gets sent off by the Chiefs, who had a fairly productive career as the what fourth, fifth option, and he can come here and just light a fire under his butt and put together a 300-400 yard season. And Valus Jones come in, and at first I was kind of shocked with the pick with the guys that were on the board, but with his versatility, it's totally possible that he could come in and um, just rise on the scene and put up 6, 7, 800 yards and get a couple returns and lead the league in return average and things like that. There's a lot of possibilities, which is good because when there is so much projection and so much potential in the young guys that you have, that creates excitement, that creates buzz around the team. And you know, having a 5, 6 win season, it sucks, right? Because you're probably going to be third in the division, and you're probably going to be battling it out with the Detroit Lions as the worst team in the division. But the direction the team is going, and then knowing that with a bad season, we're probably going to have a top 15 pick to just keep on adding good players. I don't think that's a bad situation. Of course, crazy shit always happens in the NFL where Aaron Rodgers could get hurt, and a what 9-8 season now could get a wild card berth or something crazy. But um, I do not think they're gonna get anywhere near the playoffs or sniff that seventh seed. I think they're gonna be. I think it's very possible they could have a worse record than the Detroit Lions this year, but I don't think the Detroit Lions are on as good of a rebuilding path as the Bears are, if that makes sense. Like they could have a much better 2020, 2022 than the Bears, but I don't think 23 and 24 down the line that's going to continue that trend. I think they're on the trend to be not just the trash Detroit Lions anymore, but I still think the Bears are going to be on top as soon as 2023.
Right. And to wrap this up, and also speaking of trends, I also want to point back, and I know I've talked about this before, 2018 season, right? We bring in a new coach, sophomore quarterback, zero expectation, and we make it to the playoff. Not only do we make it to the playoffs, we also go 12-4. And we're looking at the same scenario. I mean, seriously,
I agree. It's possible because nobody knew Matt Nagy called some plays for Kansas City, before he came here. Luke Getsy has almost zero play calling experience, so it's possible that you're going to catch teams off guard. But I mean, it's possible. You're right. No one expected 2018 to happen, and I mean, it was probably the most exciting season of my adult life watching that unfold. Because I thought a dynasty was being born, and that kind of got tore down thanks to Cody Parkey. But yeah, I can't. You can keep going. Sorry to cut you off, but yeah,
no,
I
you're
think it's
good, man. See, listen, I'm just saying, as far as the trend goes, and we can continue this trend. And this is why I'm so high on it, because I saw this happen already. It's already happened. We had a 12-4 season. And you look at that roster compared to the roster that we have now, besides the fact that we had Taylor Gabriel, Allen Robinson, we had a very good, Khalil Mack back then. What's different? I would say we still have the same caliber of defense. And people can argue that with me. But as far as it goes, there's guys putting up numbers on this defense. And if it weren't for last year with the inconsistencies on offense and that defense wasn't tired, we probably could have had a top 10, top 5 defense. And even then, you could even still consider the Bears to be a top 10 defense.
Yeah, I think a lot of it rides on how even Kyler Gordon plays his rookie year because this isn't going to be a situation where he can kind of work himself in, kind of like Jalen Johnson did, playing behind Kyle Fuller for a little bit, and then kind of having his second year as his time to shine. Kyler Gordon's going to be thrown into the fire, and he's going to be expected to play opposite of Jalen Johnson. And we're not rating Jalen Johnson as the CB1, the Messiah, the most high on this defense right now. I think it's very possible and within expectation to expect Kyler Gordon to take that cornerback one spot, and they're going to have to compete against each other. If they compete against each other, and Kyler Gordon has the season that some of his highest fans think he will, I think it's very very possible that the offense is going to be better. So if the defense puts together some sort of consistency and takes down that points per game average of the last couple of years, I mean, I think if the Bears consistently score 25 to 30 a game, which I think is possible, which should be should happen every week in this NFL, but we know the Bears, but I think it's possible for this year that to happen. And I mean, yeah, I mean, anything can happen any given Sunday. I mean, it just there's a lot riding on like projection of these rookies and the free agents and the guys even to be signed, what they're going to do. I mean, I think this season could go from definitely a 4 to 5 win season to if they sign some of those big name wide receivers or a vet O lineman that can plug and play right away. I think you could easily jump it up to a 7 to 9 win season, and
12-4.
who knows? Who knows? No,
12-4.
they're not getting double digit wins. If they
10,
for them to make the
10-7.
playoffs, for them to make the playoffs, Aaron Rodgers is either gonna have to get hurt or have the biggest decline we have ever seen in a
Which might
quarterback.
happen. Which seriously might happen because other than what they got going on right now, the only thing that they can really rely on is Christian Watson. I mean, we really got to put it into it's Randall Cobb and Christian Watson.
Yeah. Yeah. Don't forget my boy Alan Lazard at Iowa State.
We saw that kind of
But
last
yeah,
year, but I mean,
but it don't matter who Aaron Rodgers throws to. If he's thrown to someone, that's why the Christian Watson pick was such a good pick for them because I think he was going to be a really good player, and I was praying to God that the Bears would be able to get him. But there was going to be some growing pains, and especially having a young QB like Justin Fields throwing to him, there's going to be some growing pains with getting timing down just for Fields as a new NFL quarterback. But now throwing to a rookie and a new guy. But I mean, if you get an athletic guy with the upside that Christian Watson has, and you give him a quarterback like Aaron Rodgers, all you have to do is tell the guy just get open, and Rodgers is going to put it on you, right? All you pretty much have to worry about is yards after catch because Rodgers is going to throw you open more times than not. So that's Rodgers is like the great what's it called? The great equalizer because he no matter how he could have all of his starting receivers go down and he's still gonna put up a big game just because of how good he is, and it kills me to say that, but it's there's not much going to happen for the Bears and the NFC North different than the Packers just winning it every year until Rodgers is gone. And so we just kind of have to wait that out or hope that he just gets a little bumps and bruises here and then.
yeah. With that being said, we're gonna kind of wrap things up for this podcast here. I know we've kind of said some pretty outrageous things, as in it was me.
You,
Yeah.
you.
So, yeah, we're going to go ahead and wrap things up. Thank you guys for tuning in. We hope that you guys appreciate, the erotic behavior of myself. But, yeah, hopefully you guys can catch us on the next one. Cole, do you have anything else to add to it?
Yeah. The schedule release should be coming out this Thursday, I believe. So I think it's very possible we can jump on, have another quick emergency podcast, just kind of breaking down the weeks, because I think we'll get honestly a better idea of how the season could shape up for the Bears because we know their opponents already, but just knowing where they play them and what time of the year and where their bye is, that is going to be a big deal. So that'll be something to look forward to. Mini camp, training camp, or rookie camps going on right now, so pay attention to that, and appreciate you guys tuning in. Till next time, peace.
Let it go.